Hello there, and welcome to an Ignite Press book launch livecast. Today, I'm excited. I'm bringing to you Robert Jones, and he is the author of Government Contract Accounting Made Easy: The Ultimate Guide to Compliance, Pricing, and Profitability. And Robert and I are going to be talking about this book here in just a second. Before I go further, just to let you know, we here at Ignite Press specialize in helping people get their messages out to the world through a timeless medium, books. And if there is a book in your future, if you've thought about writing one or you've already written one and you'd like to have a conversation about bringing this to Amazon and all the online bookstores and the world, then please reach out to us at ignitepress.us. That's ignitepress.us. So without further ado, let's get to our special guest. Robert, how are you doing today on your book launch day?
Well, it's an exciting day, right? I mean, you spend a couple of years working on a book and doing all the hard work behind the scenes, and now it's exciting to finally see it in print and on Amazon and ready to go.
Well, I tell you, you have been a trooper. I know that you've been going through some challenges at the house while challenges happen with the book, and it's so funny. We talk about, a lot of people talk about completing a book and publishing a book like having a baby. I just say that I guarantee you, if you are going to write a book, life will intervene, and between a hurricane and things like that, life has intervened at your house, and I'm glad to see that you have powered through this. It's been, I know it's been a journey.
Yeah, some friends and colleagues have asked about the process, and basically what I've said is writing a book is actually much easier than you think it is, and it's as difficult as everybody has ever said that it would be. And that latter, I think, is really what you just said, Everett, that life and work intervene. You're running a business, you've got clients, you've got family, you've got, hurricanes doing damage to your house. And the content came easy, but pulling it all together is definitely what took time.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of details, and it's one of the things we are thrilled with, is the ability to help carry people through that process and to see it. So here it is now in print on Amazon, in Kindle and paperback. In fact, I should tell everybody that they can buy the book today. It is on a special launch price for the Kindle of $1.99. You can pick that up there today, and I recommend you go grab your copy. By the way, if you're watching this remotely and on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, feel free to say hi. Feel free to add comments and especially questions, and I will be very happy to pass them along in the midst of our conversation here. So, Robert, before we go any further, if you would, please tell us about you and your background before we jump into your book.
Yeah. So again, my background is, and I apologize, a little cough here. One of the other things that intervened in life recently was COVID. So got a little bit of that lingering cough, unfortunately. My background, I've been in the government contracting and accounting space for about 20 years. I have a bachelor's and master's in accounting, licensed CPA. My experience has been really a crossover between the contract management side of government contracts, so dealing with all the clauses, and the accounting side. And one of the things that really, I guess in some ways launched my career was that I landed at the time, it was just another job. And so I didn't really see it as I was living it then. But in hindsight, it made more sense. And let me explain that. I was late 20s, out of work, looking for another job, landed an accounting job because that was my experience. Just so happened the accounting job was at a government contractor. I was lucky enough to work for somebody who said, if you want to do well in the accounting side of this government contracting space, you really need to understand government contracts. And she spent a lot of time teaching me about cost type contracts and T&M and fixed price and the differences. I'm actually learning how to read and interpret and understand contracts and the impact all of that has on the accounting side of the business.
Okay, excellent. And so you've got how many years of experience in doing this now?
20 plus in government contracts and almost 30 in accounting.
Okay. So there came a time where you decided that you were going to take some of the wisdom that you've acquired in decades of doing this, and put it in a book. What made you come to that? What made you come to that conclusion?
Um, that's a great question. I think I'll even back up a little more from that. As I was saying a moment ago, that when I first got into the government contracting space, like I said, it was just another job. Um, what I realized, I don't know, 5 or so years into it was like, okay, well, this is really more than just a job. It's really kind of turned into a career. Like, again, that very focused specialty in the government contracts. And then after several years, I realized, hey, I could really go out on my own and do this, which is what led to Left Brain Professionals. And then it's kind of been a mixture of, I kind of for a long time I've wanted to write a book, and I had some different ideas that weren't necessarily even about business or what I do. I just thought that I would like to write a book, and maybe I'll still write some other books around those other ideas. But then a few years ago, I bumped into a colleague. We were chatting about it, and he said, I'm going to introduce you to this publisher. And so I had a conversation with somebody, and we had a few back and forth emails, and she kind of tried to guide me. And unfortunately, it never really took off at the time. It didn't click in my brain or something. I'm not really sure what happened. And then fast forward a couple of years, and I had kind of a similar conversation with another colleague that I bumped into at a conference. And he said, Robert, he said, you don't realize that you already have the stuff, which is why, one of my opening comments in this live cast was that in some aspects, writing the book was far easier than I thought it would be in terms of the content itself. And for me, I had already been doing several webinars and presentations. And so it was going back and gathering all of that information, putting it into one document. And I quickly realized I had a lot of material. In fact, I guess maybe a little bit of a spoiler alert, there are two more books coming. Working with Everett, we realized I really do have a lot of material, and trying to put all of it into one book didn't make sense. So I'll just tell you now, keep your eyes and ears open. There's going to be two more books coming soon. They're going to be some advanced topics, and then we're also going to get into accounting software and systems. But once I took all the content that I already knew and had, and I put it into a document, and I started going back and kind of filling in the blanks and massaging it, it really came together very fast. And that was the exciting part, was actually seeing it come together. And then obviously ever getting connected with you, and as you said, having your team behind the scenes to help with a lot of the logistics to bring it to fruition today.
Well, thank you. And by the way, you're very, very welcome. I love what you just said, that you really discovered you already had the book content, the majority of it, in presentations, in notes, and things like that. And bringing it together allowed you to really assemble the book content. I think a lot of people fail to realize that they already have the majority of their book content, whether that's in blogs or training videos or workbooks they've done or whatever. And so I think that's a really valuable lesson for people approaching this. You're who did you write Government Contract Accounting Made Easy for? Who'd you have in mind when you wrote this?
Honestly, it's for a variety of people in the government contract space. in our business, we deal with a lot of small businesses. So we're dealing with a lot of small business owners. Many of them are knee deep in the accounting and the back office stuff themselves. Some of them maybe have graduated a little bit, and so they might have a team of people who are doing more of that day-to-day accounting. But obviously, as the owner of the company, they're still, actively involved in it. And what we have found through the years, and I think this is true for many of our clients, we've got a lot of really smart clients, truly just high functioning, high performing engineers, and we've got some doctors, we've got some biopharm people. They really know their product and their service far more than I know their product or service. But what's different is that I know accounting and specifically government contract accounting, and they don't. And most of them will readily admit that, right? They'll say, I'm not an accountant. Some of them may have had one or two accounting classes in school, but some of them didn't, right? I mean, if they went to engineering school or medical school, then they probably didn't have any accounting. And so now they're out here trying to run a business and deal with that aspect of, all of that behind the scenes of running the business, and now dealing with accounting. And even more so, the other group that's related to this are all of the accountants out there who don't deal with government contracts. So one of the things that I say, and that you'll hear some of my colleagues in the industry say, is that if you're doing government contracts, if you're selling your products and services to the federal government, whether that's directly as a prime or indirectly as a sub, you need government contract accounting professionals on your side. And that's an accountant, attorney, consultants, proposal writers. There's a group of people that are going to help you in your business, and they need to know government contracts. And part of the way I describe it is that if you're going to go into business, everybody knows there's a basic layer of bureaucracy and paperwork, right? You got to register with the city and the county and the state and whatever the case may be, and you got to set up payroll and all of that. But when you're going to sell your products and services to the federal government, there's another layer of complexity or bureaucracy on top of that. There's another set of rules that you have to follow. Primarily, that's the federal acquisition regulations and their supplements, the cost accounting standards. But there is also just other contract specific terms and items that come up, and you need to understand that. And so, one of the uses of this book is for those accountants out there who, again, they might know accounting and they do GAAP based accounting really well, but maybe they don't understand some of these intricacies of government contracts. And so I'm hopeful that those are the people that pick up the book, they read it and they go, oh yeah, I kind of heard something about this one time, or I've seen something about this in a contract. Now I've got a resource in my hand to be able to work through the details of some of those items.
Yeah, and you mentioned that these business people must have this kind of support. And I think in your book, you allude to some of the consequences of not having that kind of support. Would you mind sharing some here?
Yeah, I think what we see happen is that if you're dealing with another accountant, even the licensed CPA, they're not necessarily giving you bad advice, but if they don't understand, again, these intricacies of dealing with the US federal government, they may not be giving you the best advice, right? And so that's where this book and we come into play at Left Brain Professionals, is that this is what we do all day, every day. We deal with government contracts. We deal with audits and auditors. We know the precedents that's out there. We know the questions they're going to be asked. We've dealt, I don't know, say with every possible scenario, but with 20 plus years of experience for me and some other people on my team, Suzanne Camden, who is the editor of my book, who's a
Yay,
longtime
Suzanne.
friend, and she's a longtime friend and colleague. We've worked together before, and now she's a colleague with me at Left Brain Professional. She, certainly had some input into this book. we've seen again through the years various things, and we know how to respond from that government contract accounting perspective, right? And if you don't have that, though, those other providers out there, again, I'm not knocking any of them. There, many of them are great people in their field, but they may not be providing you again that best advice to keep you out of trouble. And out of trouble can be everything from audits to indirect rates to getting through the incurred cost proposal. Um, certainly there can be some advanced issues that pop up, but even some of the basic issues can be problematic for government contractors.
Yeah, it was funny. The part that I love, there's a part of the blurb on the back of your book that I love because it has some humor and it's attention getting. And I'm going to read just this portion. Accounting is especially difficult for companies supporting the government, and businesses can quickly get into a mess. While the orange jumpsuits are generally reserved for fraud, bribery, and other egregious acts, you could end up with an unapproved system, disallowed costs, and be mired in a never-ending list of DCAA audits. So that all sounded like a nightmare to me, so that's why people need the assistance of someone like your organization, and why they need the wisdom that's in this book, Government Contract Accounting Made Easy. Those were some of the thoughts that came to my mind. So as a reminder, the book is available right now. You can get the book on Amazon. The Kindle version is set at $1.99. That's a special launch price, so certainly pick that up. The paperback is available as well. And I would recommend, if you are interested in, like if this topic is germane to you, then my guess is this is also germane to others, whether that's other people in your organization or other people in your network that could really benefit from Robert's wisdom. So please, please, please pick up the book, but also pick up a copy for someone else that you think needs some of this wisdom. Now, I've got a couple questions that came in here for you, Robert, and I want to pass them along to you. Let me go to the comments here. So Malia asked, what are some of the best tips for passing or maintaining compliance?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the way that I always answer that or approach this is for the most part, the government has given you all the answers, they've given you the final exam. And what I tell people is that in theory, as a government contractor, you should never fail an audit. If we were going to university for a class and the professor walked in the first day and said, here's the final exam, we're going to spend 12 weeks talking about all of this content and we're going to dive into it in detail. But I'm giving you the final exam on day one. The thing that I ask people is how many people should fail the final exam? And to me, the answer is zero. Everybody should get 100% and pass it because you've got 12 weeks to study exactly what the final exam is. And in the world of government contracts, it's really much the same. When we talk about the SF 1408 survey for prospective contractor accounting systems, when we talk about the incurred cost proposal and incurred cost audits and a lot of other stuff, the government, again, for the most part, puts those audit programs out there. They put the requirements out there. There's nothing secret or hidden. I can say that other than a few odd interpretations of things that have come up through the years, for the most part, when we've gone into an audit with clients, it's pretty much gone exactly as I expected it would go because we knew, one, we've been through it, but the requirements are out there, and so take advantage of that. And with that, I would also say that in the world of government contracts, you will be audited. And in fact, there's going to be a series of audits, many of them accounting related, though there's some other non-accounting type audits that government contractors will go into. And back to my scenario with the final exam in a university, if you walk in and you say, well, I got the final exam, I may or may not attend class, or maybe I'll show up the last week, maybe I'll study a couple of nights before the exam. And unfortunately, we see that happen. We see government contractors, for example, with the adequate accounting system requirement in the SF 1408, they know about it, they've heard about it, they've talked about it, they've been reminded about it. And lo and behold, they call us because they've got a pending award. Literally, the government is sitting there with the award ready to hand it out, and the government can't issue the award because the contractor doesn't have an adequate accounting system. And they call us, and and they say, yeah, we've been talking about this for a few years and we knew the day would eventually come, right? And so it's kind of like, okay, the final exam is here, and now you waited until 2 days before the final exam to start studying. And most of these things, you have time to implement all of this compliance long before the government ever shows up to actually test you on that compliance.
I love your analogy there of basically it's like it's an open book exam. The answers are there. Of course, I imagine they're written in government ease and they're squirreled away in this regulation and that procedure and that type of thing. And I imagine that's also one of these places where your company really comes in, is being able to put things in language people can understand, and take this thing that's probably pretty overwhelming for a lot of business people, and take it and make it actionable steps that have some logic and order to them. On that topic, what's the best way for people to reach you and your company, Robert?
Sure, you can visit our website at leftbrainpro.com. You can send us an email to support@leftbrainpro.com. That comes into a help desk that multiple people can access. The other thing I encourage people to do on our website, there is a tools and template section. You can download a number of tools that we talk about in the book. We also have about 50 videos on our YouTube channel. And so I oftentimes point people there. If you go to youtube.com/@leftbrainpro, or simply search for Left Brain Pro, you'll find us out there. Again, there's about 50 videos. We're constantly adding to that.
Wow.
And we cover all of the topics in the book and more. And you'll be seeing, again, 2 new books coming soon, as well as additional videos.
Now, there's another question I wanted to pass on, and let's go to that one. Zelda asks, she goes, in your opinion, what is the most valuable, or one of the most valuable takeaways that readers can expect from the book?
Wow, the most valuable takeaway.
If I said one of the most is easier, that's a lot easier because then you don't have to quantify or qualify that.
Uh, so I'm going to give you two. So I think the two valuable takeaways, it's feedback that I've heard from many of the webinars and presentations that I've done. It's feedback that I've heard. Obviously, we had a few people read the book up front and help with some other editing. Even though Suzanne is my primary editor, we had a few friends and colleagues read it. And the feedback that I've received regularly, and I think Everett, you were kind of hinting at this earlier, is that I take pride in breaking this down in a way that people can understand. It's digestible. It's not necessarily caught up in legalese or government, language. Certainly there is some of that in the book, but I really try to break it down into actionable items and to something that's easy to digest and understand. That's might be the number one takeaway. And again, the other takeaway that I would tell people is there's a lot of tips and tricks in the book, and some of those have tools and templates that you can download from the website. And so take advantage of that. They're all free.
Yeah, I think your book is a very valuable resource, and I think people will find it super, super helpful. Um, Robert, before we sign off here, we've got your contact info for people. Is there any last point that you'd like to share, or message, or anything like that before we sign off?
So, the other thing that I would say is, we can bring this training to you. You were kind of talking earlier about, who's going to use the book, and you even told people, hey, if you know somebody else, buy it for them. I can tell you some of the feedback that we've had from clients and from some of our partner firms out there. who are saying, I'm going to buy multiple copies of this book for people on my team, right? So we've got some clients who said, hey, we've got 3 or 4 people in accounting. I'm going to buy every one of them a copy. We've got a couple of partner firms that we work with that don't necessarily do what we do, but they're obviously in the accounting space. And they've said, hey, we're going to buy several copies of this book for our team. And in fact, we've had a couple of those firms contact us and say, we want you to come do some training with our team. And so, absolutely, I'd love to come and help you and your team not only digest the book, the bigger principles around the book, but even some of the very specific issues that you may be facing in your company.
Excellent. Hey, before we sign off, I also do want to specifically throw out to your team. You and Suzanne both have been a joy to work with, and we've really appreciated this as we go forward. And Suzanne, I know she's not here on camera with us here, but she's just been a delight and we've really appreciated her help in the process too. So shout out to her. Well, Robert, yeah, wonderful. And Robert, so thank you again. This has been a joy. We're excited about your book launch as it's up on Amazon today and people are buying and we see where this all takes us. But congrats again.
Thank you.
On your book. Getting the first book out especially is I know what the process is, and not everybody does it. Such a small percentage of people ever see their dreams fulfilled getting your book out. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. And with that, I want to let you know again, the book is available for $1.99 for the Kindle version. The paperback is also available there. Please pick up your copy. And also reach out to us if you've got a book in mind for you, if you have a message that you would like to get to the world, and especially if you understand what a book can do for your business or organization. Schedule a call with me. You can just go to ignitepress.us. That's ignitepress.us, where you can schedule a consultation with me. So thank you again for joining us on this book launch livecast.